underappreciated artists of the 70s and 80s, even though I barely remember the 80s and I wasn't alive for the 70s. And you weren't alive for either of them?
No.
Was anybody here alive for the 70s?
You. Barely.
Yes.
8 months.
Hey.
Or something. 10 months.
Sean ain't even going to talk about it. But we asked what topic you want us to discuss. And I threw together those three things, her and I, in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, we already had the first one, and then we were like, oh, well, we could talk about this. And then we're like, we need a third one. And we're like, oh, okay, this is the third one.
We had everything all drawn out for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
We literally have everything ready to go for that video.
Yeah.
For that whole live video, we were ready. We had a whole itinerary planned and everything. And silly me thinking everybody's going to vote for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because that's what we said.
Yeah. And
No.
y'all are like, no. So it's like, okay, well.
For his rock day, I could have read my 10-page paper.
But we're going to ask you all, if you can, please hit the thumbs up button because it'll help and it'll get more people here.
Yes.
And, you know, we like people.
We do. We love
Sometimes.
people. Sometimes. Occasionally.
But there are so many artists in the 70s that are completely underrated, underappreciated.
Unknown still.
You gotta think how many people opened up shows for The Doors, for Zeppelin. And I know Zeppelin's a 60s band and Floyd and all them guys, but in the 70s was their actual prime.
Yes.
Think about how many bands opened up for them and where they are today. There are millions of unappreciated, underrated, great bands with great music, great songs, never got signed, put out their own records, and then they come into our store or a store like ours, and they drop off a box or two of their record from the 70s that they still have in their basement.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we didn't make it, but we had fun.
Oh, like, who was it? From the management team. And we had an entire box of Greg Howe.
Yeah, Greg Howe.
Greg Howe. We had an entire box of Greg Howe, and like eventually people started being like, "Oh my gosh, I know him," and they were really excited. But in the beginning, everybody was like, "Who's that?"
Yeah, that's the normal response to a lot of these bands.
But you got to think, in '69 with Woodstock, they had so many great music festivals and so many great artists that came out of those music festivals and were so popular in the 70s, like Santana and the Flying Burrito Brothers, and then you have Black Snake. Does anyone know who Black Snake is?
Does anybody know who's still in the Flying Burrito Brothers? That's the better question.
Okay, well, we got Santana, Led Zeppelin, The Doors, and Black Snake.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, who's Black Snake? Nobody knows because they never went anywhere. Out of this huge music festival in Seattle, and there's 3 bands that never went anywhere, and everyone else is awesome. So it's crazy the way that life works.
Yeah. Talk about underappreciated. You know, I asked everybody to do a little bit of homework.
Yes.
So they didn't do this. They did this on their own time. They looked up artists and things and reasons why that they would be underappreciated, or even Rihanna's got a good one. Rihanna, what would you like to talk about?
Oh, I have one-hit wonders of the 70s and the 80s.
One-hit wonders of the 70s.
Yes.
Were there any one-hit wonders in the 70s?
Yes. I wrote down 5 of them. So, one of them being, even though which is shocking, it's the Knack, My Sharona, which is crazy because almost every song on here is great, in all honesty.
And all anybody ever hears is My Sharona, and that's it.
Yeah, and like seriously, this entire album for the most part is just awesome.
It gets played in the store
It
religiously.
Yes, every day.
And I think I was the person who played it because I heard My Sharona on the radio. So.
And the entire album gets.
It's awesome.
I'd give it a 9.
Yeah, honestly, it's a fantastic album, but.
A solid 9, not a 9.
Yeah, that was from 79 was when My Sharona came out. So I'm sure the album came out then too.
So I don't know how many of you guys have listened to the entire album of Get the Knack. Everybody's heard My Sharona.
Yes.
My Sharona.
And then, so I really love this song. It's called Video Killed the Radio Star. And how I first heard the song was on the Wii. We had Just Dance.
On the Wii.
On the Wii.
Oh my God.
MTV
Yes.
is before you.
Yes, yes, it
And
is.
it was awesome. That was like one of the best dance was from that, and we have the record. It's honestly really weird, but it's great. The first side's awesome. The second side is kind of just not the greatest, but the first side's awesome. And I play this in the store once in a while because it's weird. And that came out also in '79. Then Carl Douglas Kung Fu Fighting.
Well, hold on one second. With the Buggles, wasn't that the first
Yes, that was the
video
first.
ever played on MTV?
Yes,
And-
that was the first one.
Yeah, okay.
And Kung Fu Fighting, which I think was the theme songs to Panda. You know what I'm talking about?
Kung Fu Panda?
Yeah, Kung Fu Panda.
Everybody was Kung Fu fighting.
Yeah,
Is
it was
that what
that
we're talking
song.
about?
Yeah. And that came out in '74. And Seasons in the Sun by Terry Jacks. That's a great song. I've heard that a couple times. That's why I figured that it should be talked about too. They're kind of more slow. It was definitely more so soft rock than anything. And that came out in '73. And yeah.
All right. Are those the one-hit wonders you have written down?
Yes.
Beautiful. Now, don't get me wrong. I know there's some other stuff, and we could get to it in a minute, that you are very familiar with. But, Shauna, who did you find to be underrated when you sat there and you thought about it and your thought process went together?
Jean Knight.
Jean Knight.
Jean Knight. Her claim to fame was Mr. Big Stuff.
Mr. Big Stuff.
Yes. Now, her entire life, after she graduated high school, she devoted it to music. You know, she went from singing in a local tavern and then putting out 4 singles, and then her expectations were too high, so she kind of gave up for a hot minute and became a baker at Loyola University.
Huh.
But then another guy comes along and hands her this, and it's #1. It is like sold 11 million copies.
It's an awesome song.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even in like 2007, she was opening up for Gloria Gaynor. Who else was it?
Under Pressure.
Donna Summer.
Okay.
And then like the very next year, in 2008, she's back to singing in a bowling alley while people are bowling.
Huh.
You know, her last concert that I found was in 2017, and it was New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival.
Okay.
But in all fairness, she is 78 years old now, and her birthday is, what's today's date? Do you know?
Today is the 13th of January.
In 13 days, she'll be 79.
You know what I find out to be a shame?
What?
You know who I think an underrated, underappreciated artist was until they passed? Ronnie Spector.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, everybody want. Do you have any Ronnie Spector? Dude, where were you for years buying these records? You weren't. Somebody passes, all of a sudden it goes, oh yeah. It's because all the radio stations, especially the classic rock radio stations, are mentioning Take Me Home Tonight,
Yep.
Eddie Money.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I think Eddie Money really wasn't underrated. He had a hell of a career.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say he was underrated or underappreciated, but Ronnie Spector was completely underrated and underappreciated, unfortunately, until she very recently passed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden, everybody scrambles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that would be one of my picks, and that just happened today, you know, with everybody coming in and ordering everything online, Ronnie Spector that they possibly can, until it's sold out all over the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I had a pretty good choice there.
Well, you know, people that want something Ronnie Spector, they should probably get the Eddie Money's Greatest Hits that just came out last month or 2 months ago.
Oh, it's on
Because-
pink vinyl.
Yes, because it's on pink vinyl, and you know she does sing that song with him. So then you've got something that's awesome by 2 different artists that have passed, who are both awesome.
I just feel that, you know, It's like Picasso with painting. They say with artists, they don't get famous until after they pass. And
But is it the same thing with the artist like it is with Eddie Money? It was like Eddie Money would
Eddie
do
Money was
something.
already famous.
Well, see, no, the thing with Eddie Money was he would do something, and everybody would be like, "That's weird," and then a year later, everybody else would do it too, and it was awesome. You know, so is it that they didn't appreciate Picasso's style until he passed because he was ahead of his time?
Maybe. Huh. But anybody else got anything to add to our list so far? You haven't spoke much. What you got going
I
on?
know. Well, that's what. Well, does anybody
Well,
know?
first off, who are you?
Oh, jeez.
I'm Stephanie from Spin Me Round.
Okay, just checking.
Okay. Has anybody heard of Point Blank?
Point Blank.
Point Blank.
I don't know.
Craig has.
Oh, look at that, Craig. We're on the same wavelength. Okay, so we got Point Blank, and they opened for Aerosmith, and they had 6 albums, and their management was the same management as ZZ Top. And where did Aerosmith go? And where did ZZ Top go? And how many people have heard of Point Blank other than Craig?
I know the movie Point Blank, right?
Point Blank.
Yeah, Point Break.
No, not Point Break. Point Blank.
I'm just saying.
Oh, I love 4x4, or I even TikToked about it because it was named 4 because it was their 4th album and they only had 4 members because 2 of them went goodbye.
Well, there you go. Brandon Lewis, you are completely right. Punk rock in the 70s and 80s is
Okay.
completely
Like all of it.
underrated. Unless you are the Misfits, the Ramones, the Sex Pistols, or the Clash.
Okay.
After those, everything else didn't even count
No, they
in the world because they had to press minimum amounts of albums. One of my favorite bands of all time is completely underrated. The Dead Milkmen.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. They talk about aliens and crazy. Their albums are just insane.
You love it because they put her in handcuffs.
Well, you know, I'm just saying, man. Punk rock girl, you know. Oh yeah. The chick from MTV that they put, I forget her name right now.
Remember her name.
They put her in handcuffs and she freaked out.
Yeah.
During the commercial break, they just freaked out. It was great. She's like, they didn't realize that was punk. Because new wave and punk got very much mashed together, and it's 2 entirely completely different genres of music. I think after that, though, they learned mid 80s. You don't put early 80s. You don't put new wave with punk.
Right.
So.
Somebody said Billy Joel, but every Billy Joel album has
No.
like 4 top 10 hits.
Not even close to underappreciated
Yeah.
or underrated.
And I mean, how much were tickets?
Yeah, Kennedy. There you
Yeah.
go. That was her name,
They
Fernando.
were like, I think they were $400.
You got
Yeah.
if you haven't seen that video, I suggest you watch it. It's hysterical. They're performing on the MTV stage, and the Dead Milkmen turn around and they handcuff. No, it was Downtown Julie Brown.
Yeah, that's it.
It was Downtown Julie Brown that they handcuffed.
I was like, it was this big long name that was like
Yes.
6 words.
And it was wild because the YouTube video will show you what happened during the commercial break instead of actually going to the commercial. Wild. There you go, Mother's Finest. There's another one.
Yes.
The Producers, Montrose. I agree with all of them. Herb Alpert is undermined. I don't
Yes.
necessarily call him underrated.
Not underrated, undermined.
His whole career just got undermined.
But see, I think there's a lot of artists that we see an appreciation for that the normal public doesn't, because like someone said, Alan Parsons Project.
Yeah.
And we see how fast the Alan Parsons Project albums sell used. So other people may think that certain bands are underappreciated when we didn't bother putting them on our list because they sell so fast for us.
Menudo may have been underappreciated and underrated. Outside of this country, they weren't. They were like gods.
Yeah, it was like which version? Which
Yeah.
version of Menudo?
Oh,
They
that
were
too.
the
They went on-
Backstreet Boys for other countries.
Yeah, and I mean, they were the Backstreet Boys for other countries for years through so many incarnations.
See, now you could consider them underrated. But in their heyday,
Yeah.
absolutely
No,
not.
not at
Menudo was
all.
like, holy cow. What record you got there, Shauna?
Oh, Stone Roses. This isn't necessarily the cover that I wanted to talk about, but with their debut album, hold on. It came out in '89, okay? And they were watching this documentary about the rioting with the students in Paris, and they included lemons on their debut album, self-titled, because the students would put lemons in their mouth to try to counteract the effects from the tear gas and things like that. But they are totally underappreciated in my book. I know that in the UK they were very popular. They were the #1 selling British album for that year. But above and beyond that, when it came down to their second album, what happened was the people that were producing for New Order, for The Cure, they would all back away from their projects with them because they were more important, you know,
So they got pushed to the side.
yes,
Okay. Well, that's just typical,
yeah.
you know.
And therefore their second album had mixed reviews.
Yeah, whereas if it would have had those same people producing them, and
Right.
it
Well,
would have
that's
been,
what
it would have
made
been
their
much
first
stronger.
album so great.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And it was indie rock, and at that time, that's what was big. Like the alternative rock and indie rock. And
Who was I
things like
talking to
that.
about today? Oh, I was talking to Santa today.
Mm-hmm.
And Santa and I came up with an interesting concept. Do you notice how these groups are not calling themselves alternative rock as much as they used to?
Yes.
They're all calling themselves folk rock.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Indie rock, of course, but folk rock. And I think the reason behind that, because him and I we had a pretty good conversation about it. With country music, country music's huge.
Mhm.
Huge. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still rock, there's still everything else, but you want to make it with the country artist as well, because they have a very strong base behind them.
Okay.
And I think if bands like Tame Impala, several of the newer bands are calling themselves indie rock, folk rock, even part psych rock, and it's to get in with that group just in case they don't want to be labeled.
Yeah.
Where back in the day, especially in the 80s, late 80s, everybody was like, I'm alt rock, I'm this, I'm that. Not anymore. They all want to be included in everything.
Okay.
You gotta get in with the country people to have that little tiny base the big base that they have.
Mhm.
Just saying, Rascal Flatts. Yeah, well that's the thing. Country music's sounding a lot like rock and roll now.
I was like, I
Yeah.
didn't do
It
that.
really does.
Watch anything on the country station, and you
Some of
know.
it's good actually. Like I know a lot of people hate on country because of like the twang and stuff. There's a lot of actual good country rock.
Do you know how many underrated country stars there
Oh,
are?
there's a ton.
I mean, these are things that we don't even talk
Like,
about.
that's countless.
Well, that funk and soul, forget it.
Yeah.
You know, part of the reason why funk and soul is so prevalent in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and is because a lot of the rock artists stole it from
Yeah.
the funk and soul people.
Elvis is huge for that.
Now, you know, Alcatraz, there's a hell of a hard rock band. See, but
They've had 2 different record store day releases for
yeah,
recently.
yeah.
So.
Well, you
that's
know,
why.
everybody's underappreciated until they're #1.
Mhm.
But the things you got to do to get to #1
Mhm.
are always shameful.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
Such as Taylor Swift.
Well, you know, but it's the way of the world.
Mhm.
That's like us. We know where we sit. We were told where we sit
Mhm.
within certain communities and everything else,
Mhm.
and we're very proud of what we were told. Right?
Right.
It makes us hold our heads high to know we're a top performing record store in the country.
Right.
Not #1. If I want to be number one, I have to do a lot more shady stuff. But I refuse to do that. Pennywise, see?
That's Houston's favorite band.
Yes, that's Houston's favorite band.
Mm-hmm.
Love Pennywise.
Yes.
But every genre has underrated artists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For every artist that made it, how many didn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, you know, with Blacksnake, you know?
Yeah, I don't know Blacksnake. I'm going to have to look them up now.
I know
Yeah.
I've had their records before.
No, we haven't.
No?
Nope.
Yeah,
Nope.
Suicidal Tendencies. I believe they
Yeah.
were 80s.
Yep.
You know, all they got is all they want is a Pepsi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yet they have how many albums out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, don't get me wrong. They could sell concert tickets.
Yes.
Well, speaking of how many albums out, do you know who has 33 studio albums?
Who?
Status Quo.
33.
33. Status Quo
Studio?
has 33 studio albums. 33. Guess how many charted in the U.S.?
None.
Yes, exactly. 0.
Well,
Guess
it's
how
not their
many
video.
singles charted in the U.S.? 2. And those were both in 68.
So they don't even count for this video.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
just crazy. They have almost 100 singles. They have spent a total of 400 weeks on the UK charts, and we don't care. They're still touring today, and they just don't even bother coming to the US. How crazy is that
That's how underappreciated they are.
in
Yeah.
the US?
Now, we listened to an album from them and we did a review
Mm-hmm.
We still listen to it all the time.
All the time.
for a Status Quo record.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe everybody here, it blew my mind. They all gave them 9.5s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, a 9.5 album is like Dark Side of the Moon. You know, like something that's
Epic.
holy crap.
Yeah, like that was amazing.
Yeah.
And for Status Quo to get a 9.5 on a review, and it wasn't something that we knew at all.
No.
Well, I knew who Status Quo was, and I've listened to other albums from them, but that particular album, I forget which one it was now. But
I
it
can
was,
see the cover in my head.
yeah, it was like a tree with roots.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
truly amazing, completely underrated band
Mm-hmm.
in the U.S. They should have crossed over. I don't know why it didn't happen.
They should have crossed over huge.
Yeah.
I mean, they were so big. It's crazy that they were so big in the UK. 400 weeks. How many years is that?
400 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about this one because I love
Oh,
that
no,
album.
I love this
Like,
one, too.
Love.
Okay. So Nektar. Nektar is still touring today in a different incarnation, not all the original members. They opened for Pink Floyd in the 70s. And they have 6, I believe, studio albums. And no one cares. This is the only album that charted in the US and hit number 19.
And it's phenomenal.
And it's amazing.
Every
It's
single
absolutely-
song.
The entire thing is just absolutely amazing from front to back. And they just do not get enough love.
They never have.
They never have gotten enough love. And they're like so awesome. Everybody should listen to this album. It's amazing. It's mind blowing. Because it's Remember the Future. Yeah.
Somebody in chat said Klaatu.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta say, Klaatu's story behind that is legendary.
I think the story that it was like a Beatles
Yeah.
incognito album, I think that hurt them more than helped them.
Yeah, it probably did.
I think it hurt them more than helped them, you know, because then it just didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a hell of a story.
Mm-hmm.
Aliens, man.
Aliens.
Yes.
It was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. They see the Melvins. The Melvins, their name is popular, but I gotta say their music not so much.
Yes.
I think I have a 7-inch by them.
See, I was considering Wasp Crafty, but I think that they in the 80s they were very much appreciated because they were like co-headlining with Guns N' Roses.
I disagree
Yeah,
with
I
you.
was gonna do a song by them to talk about, but I didn't know the song.
Listen, in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Welcome to the Jungle came out, Appetite for Destruction,
Mm-hmm.
I believe the Metallica albums.
Mhm.
So if you weren't Metallica,
Mm-hmm.
if you weren't Guns N' Roses, if you weren't Poison even, who everybody crapped on, but every lady loved them, you were kind of underrated.
Def Leppard.
Well, no, see, Def Leppard wasn't underrated.
No, I mean,
You know,
I
well,
love them.
I think this is going to sound terrible, but I think the story behind Def Leppard really helped their career a lot because it showed perseverance. You know, when they got into the accident, the drummer and his arm, and I mean,
Still
think-
doing like 20-minute solos.
that's
like,
what I'm
no
saying.
joke.
Like,
Ah,
I mean, nobody could ever say they were unappreciated because you went there and you were blown away by what this guy could do.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I can't do two arms. You know, so I don't know about Def Leppard, but I think most of the '80s bands got dumped on. That's my point. I wouldn't throw Van Halen in there either, or Aerosmith, because they were out before the whole Metallica scene.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
and Van
just-
Halen was huge.
Yeah, and like they went down, but then they came back.
See, and I put Van Halen with hard rock, and a lot of
Yeah.
people don't see it like that.
Yeah.
Same thing with Aerosmith. I put Aerosmith with hard rock. It's not necessarily hard rock, but I think the bands that survived through that whole Metallica, Guns N' Roses, hell, you want to talk about underrated? Slayer. Everybody talks about, I want Slayer records. I bring in hundreds of Slayer records.
Yeah.
Huh.
Barely anybody buys them.
No one cares.
They're all waiting for them to be valuable. And then all of a sudden, a month later, after they're
After
all
the last one sells.
yes, then everybody comes running in saying, "Do you have any Slayer?"
It never
Like,
fails.
yeah,
It
last
never
month.
fails.
Like, come on, man, I'm on to you. No, Slayer's definitely. I don't know.
Someone said Slade, and it's like, but they're the Sladiest. And see, that's another.
yeah, that's exactly the word that went through my head.
Yeah, but it's like they're the Sladiest, and that's another band that, you know, as soon as they come in, we see them go back out.
Yeah.
You know, because people get excited.
I can't believe somebody said Depeche Mode. I want to die. Oh my gosh. They are not underappreciated. They were just before their time.
No.
And they still are going. So I don't want to hear
I
nothing.
definitely think Depeche Mode is underrated, but they're like the Beastie Boys. You got License to Ill, Paul's Boutique,
And then one song on every album.
one song on
Yep.
every album. And I hate to say it, but
I
that's
don't
Depeche
care.
Mode
I totally
to me.
disagree.
To me,
I love Depeche Mode.
it's Violator, and then they got one good song
No,
on
and
every
then
album.
Songs of Faith and Devotion is just, it's great from cover to cover.
So maybe they're underrated in my book. I tried. I literally tried for you. That's like I tried to listen to New Order, and I liked half the album.
Yeah,
The one popular one. I do love Depeche Mode. Yeah, see?
Carole King isn't underrated because of Tapestry, and they did the Broadway musical about Tapestry, the Tapestry Revisited. So I feel that Carole King definitely has appreciation.
she's amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Aaron.
What? Did I miss it?
Depeche Mode, last 20 years, one good song each release, you nailed it.
Hey, she really is a Depeche Mode fan.
I love them.
Well, what about After the Fire? Do you know who After the Fire is?
No.
They opened for Queen
Really?
in '82. 5 albums.
Wow.
One charted in the U.S. Hit number 25. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Smiths equals super overrated. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I agree. I haven't found anything by them yet that I've actually enjoyed.
No, see,
No, not in the
Joe
quarter.
Jett?
yeah, are
Come
you kidding me?
No.
I had to read that twice.
I would consider Gary Newman completely unappreciated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I would.
Definitely.
Ambrosia, too.
Yep.
Pablo Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, you're hitting it there. I do think you are correct. Beartooth's too new.
Yep. What about Magnum?
Ooh,
Yeah, because Magnum opened for Metallica.
Really?
Yep, they have 22 studio
Our
albums.
Magnum or the other Magnum?
The British Magnum.
The British Magnum.
The British
Okay.
Magnum. They opened for Metallica, and they have 22 studio albums, and 8 of them were in the 70s and 80s, and none of them charted in the U.S.
Huh. There's always going to be a lot of hard rock bands that are unappreciated. I mean, hell, the entire Metal Blade records.
Yeah, that is true.
The entire Metal Blade. If you didn't make it, you are underrated
Yeah.
and underappreciated.
Well, Zephyr, they opened for Alice Cooper.
Zephyr too, yeah.
Yeah,
We've had
4
Zephyr
albums.
records.
Their debut album was released in '69, but it hit number 48 on the Billboard in 1970.
Yeah.
And that was that. That was about all there was.
See, I like Dropkick Murphys.
You know, some people do say that they're a little bit they got one good album.
Yeah. I think they have more than that. Pretty much on all their albums, there's a couple good songs.
It's the beer drinking song that everybody knows.
Yeah, Shipping Out to Boston's also a really good song.
You know, you got Big Star. You know, very underrated. I do gotta say, some of my favorite bands like Green Jello. That was 90s though, so we can't talk about them. Damn it.
Can't talk about them.
Oh, 70s. See, we weren't around for the 70s, man. This isn't fair.
Should have picked a different year.
I just threw it together in
Yeah, we
3
just threw
seconds.
it together in 3 seconds, and that was it.
And next we gotta do like the 90s, the 2000s.
Gotta do the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame
Okay,
next.
well, the Fannies, yeah, I got Fannies records in, and everybody came running in for those Fannies records. Everybody was excited about that.
It's interesting. Somebody said Zappa.
I could see that.
Zappa has always been, by far, the most underrated, underappreciated artist ever.
And he really is an artist. Like
Yeah.
he takes it to that next level where it's not just, you know, about
From his work on
Music.
commercials,
Yeah.
all the way through his music career, performing with the orchestras. Completely underrated.
And all the different genres of music that he went into and just moved from one to another. Really, his artistry.
The problem always was with Zappa is he wanted perfection. And you can't get perfection. Not on every level that he wanted it.
Yes.
It's impossible. So I do think, yeah, as a guitar player, completely underrated. It's a shame. It's a shame that he's no longer with us. Olivia Newton-John.
She just
Just
came out with a
from
new
Master
album.
Physical.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did just come out.
Ah, there you go. The New York Dolls and the influence they had. Holy cow. Definitely. Yeah, well, I seen Budgie on the list and I seen all these things and I'm like, you know, I didn't particularly like the Budgie albums. And I know people are going to be like, oh, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I just didn't. And we've had him in several times. Sonic Youth, yeah, there you go. What about Frankie Goes to Hollywood? Welcome to My Pleasure Dome. That's a
Yeah.
hell of an album.
Yep.
And then his other ones to follow it up were like completely underrated and underappreciated.
Yeah. Somebody said the Sex Pistols. The Sex Pistols are not underappreciated
No, not
because
at
they
all.
have one studio album. One studio album.
They were
And
huge.
With
They
different
are
versions.
supposed to be the most influential, one of the most influential bands in punk rock with one studio album. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1996. One studio album.
Listen,
You have
They made
one
it.
studio album. You can't be underappreciated. Now I know they.
he changed an entire country. That album changed an entire
Everything.
country's mindset.
Yes.
With God Save the Queen?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, the whole thing is that, like, they were banned by the BBC and something else because of how aggressive it was.
Yeah.
So they didn't get the radio play that they should have at the time because they were banned. But I really do not believe that they were underappreciated.
I don't think they needed the radio play at that point. I
Everyone-
think their name just, you know.
Yeah.
Offended everybody and they all
Yeah.
had to see it.
Yeah. You can't even
I
hashtag
mean, like,
it.
if
It
you're
won't
so
come up.
gross. Yeah.
Because, you know, when you think of what is a Sex Pistol, it's going to offend some people. I mean, we see it as a band, but if you broke that name down and never heard it before, you're gonna be like,
What the heck did I just see or listen to?
And
Yeah.
God save the what? That's terrible. So I could see how they made it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but he was only in the band for what, a year or two? Sid Vicious?
Yeah, he was in the band for a year, 77 to 78. They broke up in 78, and then unfortunately he passed in 79. So,
Wendy O. Williams.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very underrated and very undressed.
Like what?
She's the one who went out. She was pretty much one of the hardest rockin' chicks to ever do it. And she did it naked.
Just about.
Pretty much naked. By the end of the show, she was 100% naked.
Just about.
It's terrible what happened to her in her life and the lifestyle that caught up with her. But hell of a lady. You should see her interviews too on YouTube. She interviewed like Lemmy. She interviewed several great, huge, influential rock stars, which was very cool.
Did you want to talk about your 80s
Yeah.
wonders?
So I got Dixie's Midnight Rise, Come on Eileen, which, funny enough, my bus driver, she is named after Come on Eileen. Her name was Eileen.
Ah.
And that was from 82. And pretty much just,
Now you have listened to this whole album.
yeah, I have it. It took me like 3 months to get because we could not get in a used copy. We had a new copy for years. But yeah, I've listened to the whole album. I actually very much like it.
The entire thing, right?
The
Not just
entire
Come
thing.
On
It's not
Eileen?
just Come on Eileen, even though that song is the quickest one. It's obviously very catchy,
Mhm.
but the whole album for the most part is amazing. And then I got obviously 99 Left Balloons by Nina, and I used to know that song in English and in German. Just awesome all together.
Now I was just gonna mention this too, with that. I'm sorry to cut you off.
It's okay.
Think about it this way, right? If the Sex Pistols got in with one album
Yeah.
because of how they influenced an entire country,
Here with that one song alone.
understand what 99 Left Balloons is talking about
Yes.
and the message that they're trying to pass on.
Yeah. As she's singing it beautifully, but there's so much meaning behind that song.
How in the hell
Yeah.
does nobody know who Nina is? She should have named herself Naked Chick. If she-
She's awesome, honestly. Her voice is fantastic.
but if she'd have turned around and named herself some body part that I don't want to discuss
Yeah.
live on YouTube, she'd be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame right now.
Yeah. I believe
Because
she's
they'd be
from
like,
Pantera.
did she just say vagina in a weird way?
Uh-huh.
It'd
Yeah.
be boom,
Yeah.
she'd be right in.
Yep. And Funky Town by Lips Inc.
Oh, yeah.
Take me to
Yeah.
the funky town.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think pretty much everyone loves that song. Then by Tony Basil, Mickey.
Oh, Mickey,
Yep.
you're so fine.
We'd
You're so
play it
fine.
in the
Oh,
car
my
and she
God,
just
Mickey.
start going.
Hey, Mickey.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd consider that underrated. I've never
Well,
listened
it's
to
a
the full
one
album.
hit. It's a
though.
one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nothing
it was
else by her really
nothing else.
launched. It was just
Yeah,
that
just that
song for the
song.
I was
most
just
part.
saying, I don't know what else she even
She-
has.
If you
She
have
had at least 2 albums.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At
if
least
you
2.
have that album or even that single, that's all you really needed by her.
Yeah, because that song was catchy. It's just a great song in
It
general.
was just great.
Yeah.
Even the video for it was
Yeah,
great.
I just watched it today actually, and she's dressed as a cheerleader.
It's so cute.
Yeah, she's just woo. Then she blinded me with Science by Thomas Dolby. That song's a great song.
Thomas
too.
Dolby in general is underrated.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
Yes,
I
he
agree
is.
with.
And
Smithereens.
this song I was listening to, I thought it was so funny. By Timbuk 3, The Future's So Bright. I was listening to it and I'm like, this song is not the greatest, but it was a one-hit wonder. It was really catchy too.
Yes.
See, they say Deep Purple. Somebody just mentioned it. David,
Cameron.
yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble seeing it. But I don't think Deep Purple was underrated. I think they were confused about Deep Purple because they switched genres
Yeah.
and it just went into a giant.
Well, remember when with the orchestra, with the Philharmonic Orchestra, when they were performing in like back in '69, and they're standing next to people that have been playing their instruments for 50 years. And I think Richie Blackmore said he'd been playing for like 3 years at that point.
Yeah.
And they just kind of felt like frauds, So I think that was one of the things that had them changing everything up, was because they just felt like they were too appreciated.
See, that's what I was going to say. I don't think Deep Purple was unappreciated. I think Rainbow was unappreciated because Rainbow, Nazareth, all these hard rock bands, especially Nazareth, you got Hair of the Dog and then everything else. I mean, you got No Mercy, which...
It was good. It just wasn't.
You know what sold No Mercy? The freaking cover.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a werewolf type of dude on or a big wolf-looking thing on the front cover, and it was wild. So that's what sold the album.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good album, but it's no Hair of the Dog.
No.
Yeah.
No, because that's just like the album.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of underrated bands.
I wouldn't say Fleetwood Mac's underrated.
I would say Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac was most likely underrated.
I underrate it.
But you know, once you got to the 70s, I do not believe that Fleetwood Mac was
Well,
underrated.
come on, I'm named after Rhiannon.
Mm-hmm. And I sang you every single song off of the self-titled and Rumors when you were a baby.
See,
every single song in order.
When you were talking about Deep Purple, the thing is Deep Purple is really what brought hard rock into metal. And that's what they are supposed to be known for. But all these guys just came and rocked harder, and they just got put in their place. So it's not exactly that they're underappreciated or overappreciated. Sometimes you just got to give credit where credit is due.
Mm.
And they were part of that first.
Almost every single metal band that came out in the 80s, like I said, if you weren't Metallica, if you weren't Guns N' Roses,
that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
there was maybe 5 or 6 top heavy metal bands, not hard rock, not Aerosmith, not... I don't even know if I put Guns N' Roses in heavy metal like that. But, I mean, don't get me wrong, some of the songs are hard, but...
Not all of it.
They're not Iron Maiden. Metallica, yes, with Ride the Lightning and...
Yeah.
It's
thrash
absolutely.
metal.
But everybody who came after them kind of got shadowed completely. I mean, even Pantera wasn't as big as they should have been. And they toured 200 days. I just watched a documentary.
Yeah.
200 days a year. Could you imagine touring? Every day you got a new... and selling out stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
And
Their
I still
content
think...
is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's not,
But they were still underrated. They didn't get those record sales. Put them up against any Metallica record. Cowboys from Hell and Vulgar Display of Power. The numbers will be like point nothing in sales. But concert tickets, they sold a lot of tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Especially 20 years, selling out stadiums.
Yeah.
I just think every single metal band never really stood the chance once Metallica came out and had that sound.
Mm-hmm.
Even Megadeth. You put Megadeth's numbers up against Metallica's and it's like they don't even exist. I don't know. So I think the entire genre of punk, the entire genre of heavy metal, new wave, and any folk, country, all those artists are just completely underrated. There's so many. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But we're hoping that you're watching the chat and you're finding some people's Sisters of Mercy, some people's choices, and give them a shot. Try it. Why not? What do you have to lose? You're on YouTube anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But after the live stream, people, please hit the thumbs up button. Yeah. Anybody else got anything to add to it? Or did you go through your whole things?
I don't think my whole thing.
Well, that's what I was trying to think, and I'm like, another band that I don't think gets enough love is the Romantics.
Okay. Somebody say something wrong?
No, I think we got a super chat thingy.
Super chat thingy.
Yeah.
What's it for? What's it say?
Go back.
It went
That's
up-
why I was
it
like,
went
holy
away.
cow.
It went away.
No, we
It
got a
went
couple
away.
of things, but we already got rid of it.
What? Want me to click on it?
Go ahead.
Darn it, I don't know how. I love you though.
It's
Long-time viewer,
Yeah.
first time in chat, big fan. Can I change tactics? Underrated post-punk, The Fall.
Ooh, The
The
Fall.
Fall.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I want to call them underrated. We sold every Fall record known to man
Yes.
when we first opened up. Do you remember that? And I played the hell out of these records, and people were like, "What is this?" And then when I tell them it was like $65, they were like, "Never mind."
never mind.
Yes, The Fall is a serious band.
hmm
Really is.
Absolutely.
Somebody got booted from a Romantics gig for being underage. Poor Tim and his friend.
No.
Yeah.
See, Quiet Riot, that one album that they have, as like
Do you think that the on Metal Health, that one song, do you think that's like that's not a one hit?
No.
no, 'cause there's a couple- there's a couple
no.
songs on
They
there.
had
No.
like 4 hits on that album.
I
That
would
album's
put
awesome.
I keep going
Amazing.
back. I can't stop going back.
I would put Quiet Riot up there, and in the beginning of metal,
hmm
Quiet Riot and what they did. I watched the whole documentary on them.
Of course you did.
Of course I did.
Of
This is what
course
I
you
do.
did.
Literally, when I'm not here, guys, I am listening to music, watching documentaries.
Yeah, like you were watching the documentary on Apollina yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Well, that was an interview with Apollina.
yeah. And
it was
I'm
pretty
like,
cool.
Okay, down. Let's listen to what's going on over here.
See, personally, I actually like Nickelback. I know I'm one of the very few, apparently, because everyone bashes them. I do like Nickelback, though.
Well, see, I think the problem was that it seemed like everyone loved Nickelback for 5 seconds.
And everyone stopped.
And then everybody got sick of them 5 seconds after that. And I
Look
think
at this
that's the problem.
photograph.
Somebody said death. Now, I watched that.
We watched
Yeah,
that
yeah,
great
we-
documentary.
See?
Death.
Like, I've
That
watched
was
so many
great.
documentaries. It's unbelievable.
But there's also another band that's
There's 2 different bands called Death.
they're the same, yeah, and they're in the same section. I know one of them is reggae, but the other one's metal.
Yes. In the middle of the hood, they're sitting there playing metal.
Yeah,
Wild band, man.
they're great though. That's the
Yes.
thing.
And all their neighbors hated them because it's all hip hop.
Yeah, and they were just metal.
Yeah, and they were rocking out like nobody's business. That's why those albums are so great.
Yeah.
You know, people don't realize any of
Everyone's
this.
going Nickelback now. I started something.
Yeah, somebody, Ethan's
Listen,
puking.
I have all the Nickelback albums on vinyl.
You know,
All of them.
one of my all-time favorite bands is the Scorpions.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, every single one of their albums, pretty much they are underrated and underappreciated. And,
Well, we play them sometimes. They're great. I love them.
you know, they made it. So it's not like, you know, nobody knows who Scorpions are. There's so many damn albums out, it's
So many.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, not many people talk about them the way that they used to.
Yeah.
I forget the name of the album, but the one with the forks on the eyes, I forget it. It's Blue. I love that album. That's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah. John Mellencamp, you have
There's a little ditty about Jack and Diane.
yeah, no, I mean, but
What,
if,
Springsteen?
No, not Bruce. Oh my God.
Bruce
Like, what just
Springsteen
happened?
and John Mellencamp, for some reason to me, they're the same person. I know they're not. But
And-
I'll be like, oh, I love them. And I'll say, oh, Bruce Springsteen when that song comes on. You're like, no. I'm like, what?
Just like Rod Stewart and Tom Petty. You get the
I'm super
They're
excited,
both
Crafty.
blonde, though.
I'm super excited for the new Scorpions album.
hmm
Yeah.
I'm like, it's gonna rock, and I'm telling you, I want to go.
Yeah, to Vegas.
Very early April, they're doing a bunch of shows in
We still got to get
Vegas.
those real ID things
That's pretty.
What's a real ID thing?
to take a plane.
Yeah, if not, you have to
Yeah,
get
you
a passport.
can't get on a plane without a real ID.
Yeah,
We-
or
we
you
have
What?
to make
passport.
appointments for a real ID.
I'm taking
Yeah,
a
they
boat.
have-
That's
like
why your thing
holographic
says it's
whatever.
not a real ID.
You kayaking it?
No, submarine.
We
Huh?
all live in the
I'm getting to Vegas
submarine.
in a submarine in the sky.
Take you a long time to get there.
I'm
You have
just
to
saying.
invent something, apparently.
And I'm going naked.
It's Vegas, though. It stays.
Yeah, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
That's right. That's right. New Kids on the Block.
Leave it out, LOLing.
Yeah, you're gonna start there, really? You know, I made so much fun of New Kids on the Block growing up to all the girls because everybody loved them.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where I picked on the people. This way I got attention, I guess. But I still don't like them.
New Kids on the Block, 98 Degrees,
My
and
seventh or eighth
Backstreet Boys.
My 7th or 8th grade science teacher was so excited because her friend was dating
One of them.
the youngest one.
Oh.
Joey? Maybe Joey? I don't know.
Listen, Rodney, when we close this store down, I'm running around naked. I'm gonna get this account 100% banned, and then I'm rolling.
You could do that alone. No, thank you.
Yeah, it'll be 100% alone. It'll be like my only video.
Did you see what she wrote?
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, because they said we should block the person that said Rush is overrated. Don't have time for that.
Listen, Rush is a very acquired taste.
Yes.
I mean, everybody's gonna love Tom Sawyer,
Like, what?
no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start getting into other Rush stuff, if I could see how they're unappreciated, sort of. At the same time, thank God. No. Listen, if Justin was here, we'd be going at it because he's a huge prog rock fan.
Yeah.
And that's why we were so excited to do, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because I couldn't wait
We
to
were
say my
all
line.
Oh, the Dead Boys for sure.
Couldn't wait to say my line, and then nope.
For sure they were underrated. They barely made it. They got the one album, Sonic Reducer, and that's about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, someone said it was showy.
yeah. That's what I was like.
Lil Big, is that Who Let the Dogs Out or something? What did he say?
There you go, Mike got the spins. I love Rush, but it's rock for nerds. Now listen,
Mambo number 5.
That's
Rihanna's,
it.
Yeah.
Rihanna's greatest one-hit wonder of all time, where you're gonna know the name, but you're not gonna get it. Bobby McFerrin.
Oh, I love him.
Mm-hmm.
I found him when I was in, what, 3rd grade, 4th grade?
Yeah.
I love him.
And it's like, it's just that one song.
Yeah, Don't Worry, Be Happy.
All anybody
That
cares
whole
about.
album that's on, it's a pretty much white cover and there's red on it. That album is fantastic by him. Like, I've listened to pretty much everything he's put out. That's by far the best album. That's the most popular album out of all of them.
But all anybody knows about Bobby McFerrin is "Don't Worry, Be
Happy.
Happy."
Yes, that one song.
That's it.
And
Everything is awesome though.
But that whole album.
It's
What's
fantastic.
that other song on there? He does a cover of something that
Baby, you can drive my car.
He
It's
do-
amazing.
It's amazing.
he rocks that.
I was waiting to break in, and I couldn't break in. Absolutely awesome.
He's awesome.
I mean, I don't really think it was a one-hit wonder, but he'll never top that.
No.
No, that's his best. But there's a whole big thing with him too.
Unless he runs around naked.
No one wants to see this.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I'm
so,
going home before somebody gets naked.
Duran. Okay, you know what, people? Stop swearing in the chat.
What are they saying?
They're saying the F word. Don't swear. Okay?
Mm.
Just
It's not
don't
gonna
swear
pop up.
because it's not going to pop up. So just stop it with the F word.
Are you
It's
talking
not
about
gonna
me?
Pop up. No.
No,
No,
they're
they're
just it's word
It's like
enhancers.
they're exciting,
Oh.
and
Word
they're
enhance.
too excited,
Sentence
and it's like
enhancers.
just stop swearing because it's not popping up. Okay, so Dustin asked thoughts on Duran Duran. So I think it's really funny that Duran Duran was originally opened for the Go-Go's.
Really?
Yes. And then you think about how many the albums the Go-Go's did compared to how many albums that Duran Duran did, and how much longer Duran Duran careers was than the Go-Go's, because Belinda Carlisle broke off to do her solo stuff and everything. So it's just funny that now the Go-Go's were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Duran Duran still hasn't been.
You know what I gotta say about Duran Duran? I never in a million years would have thought to say that they were unappreciated or underrated.
Mm-hmm.
I never would have.
Mm-hmm.
Because every album we've ever had goes right out of here.
Immediately.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything even in the Duran Duran section.
No, there is. I would have never have said that up until this year
Really?
or 2021.
Okay.
that new album that just came out.
Oh yeah.
We can't sell a single copy of that new album.
He sold
Are you
one.
talking about the green one?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
we sold one.
And everyone was asking for it, and they were so upset that we did not get it in. So when I ordered it for people, I had no one want it.
Now I'm sitting with a dozen copies,
Yeah.
and I'm like, but it's Duran. So I think as soon as we get Hungry Like a Wolf and all the other ones,
Then
and
it'll start going.
then they'll start moving. But I would have sworn that it would have just been scooped right
It
up.
would have just
See, I was
gone.
going to talk about the Boomtown Rats, but I lost my records.
Yeah, we wanted to show you guys more records, but we set this thing up 10 minutes beforehand, and we just figured, hey, we come in, talk, chat, chill with everybody.
Because I
My-
TikToked about the Boomtown Rats.
My number one hits were so popular, we had like nothing. I had 3 records, that was it.
Well, that's the
And 2 of them
problem
were
with
store
having a record
copies.
store. Things come in, things go out all the time.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with Madness. Somebody said Madness, and I would never think to put Madness in because as soon as the records come in, they go back out.
Yeah, and they were in the punk section because they're considered ska rock.
Mm-hmm.
Ska punk.
It's
my bad.
The Human League, I don't know.
That's just like an 80s thing. That's not like, I don't think they were underappreciated. I just think they put out what they put out, and that was it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you got to figure, all the bands in the 70s, right? If you look at how many bands made it, very few compared to how many there are, and that's normal, right? But the bands that made it, they formed super groups in the 70s, especially the early 70s. I know we're talking a lot about the 80s,
Yeah.
but if we go back to the 70s and you look at Traveling Wilburys and you look at Cream and you look at several of these groups, the band, it's Bob Dylan's band, but not Bob Dylan. It's all these super groups that formed with people,
Yeah.
with artists that already made it. And they all circled in together and created some of the best music on earth, but they never gave anybody else a shot. And the ones that did give the people the shot, it's like barely. If you want to look at now versus back in the 70s, look at an Adele record. Look at any of the Adele records. Go on Discogs, put an Adele record in, and look at all the credits that she has to give to people.
Yeah.
There is like 100 names on one album
Yeah.
of people that are getting royalties and credits off of one Adele record. Where if you look back to almost any 70s album, you are not going to see that. Now, I understand it's because the record industry changed and everybody wants their money and all this
They
other
all
stuff.
got their hands out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the bands actually put a lot of the work into it. Whereas Adele, oh, we got another thingy. Baker Street Union, so underrated. I agree. I don't even know who Baker Street Union is, but yes. Look it up, Mama. See who the Baker Street Union is.
I am.
But if you look back from the 70s and how many credits they were giving to the drummers, no, they split the royalties, just like in the Queen documentary. How when Freddie Mercury came back, they're like, listen, guys, we're just going to split the money. It doesn't matter.
Because they're in the 60s.
We're all going to put the work in, and so be it. That's how it should have been. But now, people like doing beats are making millions of dollars. People that are doing other things because they all got their credit stamped on each song.
Yeah.
Hell, the arranger of the album has a credit now. The person who actually said, you know what? We're going to go in this order. We're going to put this song here, that song there, this song here, that song here.
Now they matter.
They're getting a credit, meaning a royalty, which is kind of crazy. So, hell, you might as well join the music industry now and do whatever you can for anybody, but demand your credit.
But Beacon Street Union was a psychedelic rock group from Boston.
Boston.
And they released 2 albums in 68 and one in 1970.
All right. I'm going to have to check them out.
Yeah, so they were a little bit before what we were really talking about.
But I promise I will check them out.
Yep.
And I will mention them in one of my upcoming videos, what I thought of them. And I'll try to hunt down a record because I have a lot of psych rock that she don't know about.
He
Until she
thinks
finds
that.
it.
But the problem is when he hides it, he goes low, and I'm short. He's
Goes
tall.
high, what are you
I got
He
a
should
lot
go
of psych
high
rock.
to hide stuff from me, because then there's no way I'm getting it down off the shelf.
She hasn't found the stash yet.
Okay, good.
Is everything
She
that we
found,
threw on
she
top?
found, listen, she found the moving stash. The actual stash is like not going to be touched.
Mm.
But it's been an hour.
Okay.
Sinead O'Connor. Sinead O'Connor's not underrated.
No.
She put herself in the position that I don't even have a nice way to say it.
I hate to say it, but there's certain things you just don't talk about.
Mhm.
Number one, you don't talk politics.
Yeah.
Number two, you don't talk religion.
No.
And you certainly don't rip up a picture live on some crazy
Nope.
thing. So she is underrated because beautiful voice.
Mhm.
I mean,
Should
she
have
would
been.
have had such a different career had
Oh.
she chose to do what she did.
See, I was gonna do Sparks, John,
Mm-hmm.
except everybody's been asking me for Sparks lately. So I was like, they must not be unappreciated because I keep. Do you have any Sparks albums? Do you have any Sparks albums? Do you have any Sparks albums? So I didn't think they were underappreciated.
Adequately rated for for Sinead O'Connor. I just think she butchered her own career.
Mm-hmm.
Well
she
then,
did just have tragedy.
Yeah.
take a look at Tiffany.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany, completely underrated because you don't realize she's still going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's still going. So I mean, so is Sinead O'Connor though. They just did a re-release of one of her albums, right? For Record Store Day.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a full album or was it the
The
single?
House. Yeah.
Tiffany, it was
Tiffany was the single,
the single.
but it was like all the
Sinead-
different mixes.
Sinead
Sinead O'Connor. Yeah.
It was 4 songs off of an upcoming something.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was like an EP for an album.
Yeah.
He's
Thank
fixed his
you.
ways.
Thank you for putting effing.
Because he was
That's
the
great.
issue.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like, no, it's not gonna come up because you keep swearing.
That's right. That's
So
right.
you can't type out the swear words because
He fixed it.
yeah.
Do you know how long it took me to get me to tone down my mouth?
Yeah.
Ooh, there's a Sparks documentary on Netflix.
Yeah, well that's what Fernando said, and then somebody else told us where it is. So woohoo! we
I'm
gotta
totally
look
gonna
for
check it out because
Gotta
I
look
have
for
not
it.
watched that one. Thank you. See, you gave me
Yes.
something new to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm crazy about it though. I love
That's
watching
not a
this stuff.
swear word.
That's a band. It's a punk band.
What
What?
is it?
I know, but it's it's telling me to
Well, it's
hide
talking
it
about butts.
because it's butt. So I had to hit the button.
See, and Rick Springfield, everybody knows him for that one song.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Jesse's
Zappa?
Girl.
Yeah.
That's a great song. Even I have it added.
Mhm.
But that entire album with Jesse's Girl on it,
Mhm.
you'd recognize most of those
Yeah.
songs. So, interesting. You know, we would have been so much better off doing the 90s.
Yeah,
Because
that would've
it
been
came
my
about,
stuff.
like,
I would
I would
love
have
to
been
do
like all
some
over
songs.
that. 90s, 2000s.
Yes.
keep tipping back.
70s,
This is
70s
hard
is
this
tough
year.
because when I do think of the 70s and I think of music, it's pretty much when rock actually got started. Well, 60s, but when rock was actually like mainstreamed, besides the Beatles and the Beach Boys. Just saying. That's when, you got the psych rock coming out, everything else. I mean, psych rock was obviously 60s, but more so in the 70s than it was even in the 60s. That's why the 60s stuff is so valuable.
Yeah.
Because there's so many unrated and unmentioned bands
Mm-hmm.
from late 60s to early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about psych rock then. Moby Grape, there's another hell of a band.
Oh, yeah.
But 60s.
We would totally talk about our favorite bands, but we're about in the 70s and 80s right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he could talk about the Ramones and Fleetwood Mac.
I got the
And the
Ramones.
Eagles.
What do you want to know about the Ramones? I got
I
this.
can talk about mine. Mine's the 90s.
I have seen and heard every damn documentary, every album, every live album, every mess up, every screw up, I think. Maybe not every. I'd put myself at about the 75% category of the Ramones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy them. I think they were a bunch of goofballs who were just out having a good time. I can appreciate that. It registers with me. I don't know how.
It's because they're unapologetic.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, but future photo, Fanny. Everybody came running in for the Fanny records when I had the Fanny records. I did fun facts. I remember where I did fun facts on Fanny. But I had 3 or 4 Fanny records and everybody came running in for them. Everybody was really excited. So I don't think they're underrated. I think that they are produced. Their albums and CDs are underproduced. Because if there were more of them out there, people would buy them.
Yeah, I got something. Everybody who's underrated, right? There's a real easy way to define punk, real quick. Anybody who played CBGBs that didn't make it.
Did you see that?
What?
400 people bought tickets to a 2,000-seat theater to see the Ramones in 1986.
400?
400 people bought tickets in a 2,000.
You know what the greatest shows they ever had were?
That's so they can jump around.
No. The greatest shows that the Ramones ever had were the early 70s. If you watched a video of them at the Capitol Theater in Passaic, nobody knew how to act. Nobody. There were seats. Everybody's sitting down, and the Ramones is just up there. You know, their
Doing
normal
their thing,
stance
yeah.
and their hair and, you know, how they do. I wish I was on camera, but I'm not. Anyway, I did my whole routine.
Yes, he did.
But they're all sitting down, and they're just staring in awe at these crazy guys just ripping it. It wasn't punk the way, it was punk in the purest form it could ever be. Because it was before the leather jackets got all popular and the studs and the craziness of punk and the ruthlessness of punk. And even before the friendships that were formed within that community. So if you watch those shows, you can understand where it actually came from. Because half the crowd was just dumbfounded. And the other half was like, what is this stuff? Pretty wild.
So Mike says he's the guy who won't sit down at concerts. See, I don't think you should be sitting down at a concert. We seen Joan Jett with Styx, and we were the ones standing for Joan Jett because we were one of the very few people there, and we were asked to sit down. It's like, no, we're
Everybody
here for her,
was
not
yelling
for
at us,
Styx.
and it's like, we don't care about Styx. We're here for Joan Jett.
Yeah.
So you know what? As soon as they started singing Mr. Roboto and Come Sail Away, it poured on all of them,
And
but
we
we were
left.
already running.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, I think at concerts you should be standing. Even if it's a seated concert, you should still be standing.
I missed that concert.
Which, huh?
Yeah.
I gave you my ticket, baby.
Oh, yeah.
yep, and we had the best time ever.
I know.
And I just seen over the summer Shinedown, and for the first few songs everyone was singing down. Then I got dark out, and I guess all the beer kicked in with people. And it was like, whoa, started standing.
You were like, yes, finally I can stand up and no one's gonna yell
The
at
guy
me.
next to me was awesome. He was just kept talking. It was like apparently his 10th time seeing them on this tour, and he was crazy. It was great.
We always
He
find
just
the
kept
crazies.
talking, and they had Free Monster. It was awesome.
See, but that's why a punk show is better. Because if you're at a punk show and some dude's talking to you and he's crazy and you just want him to shut up, you just nudge him a little bit and then you go the other way. And it's like you swayed with the music and I'm gone. That's what I always used to do anyway.
Okay, it's 10 after 9.
We're done?
We're done.
What are you going to do now?
So now they gotta leave us a comment.
Wait a minute. What type of comment? What do you want to know?
I don't know, that's what I'm wondering.
Who are you again?
I'm Stephanie from Spin Me Round.
Was there an issue with this?
I just love busting our chops. Listen, there's other record stores that do these videos now. And in the intro to every single one of their videos, they have to say who they are, the name of their record store. So I'm like, I keep busting your mother's chops like, why don't we do any of this? You know, I'm not knocking the other stores. I'm having fun with your mother.
Yeah,
So
he
I
just,
didn't get it.
yeah, I didn't get it either. I'm like, why'd you keep making me say who I am?
Because it's funny to me.
Like they know who I am.
It was like an inside joke, but it was inside of me and
Yeah,
not
it
inside
was
of
just
you.
you, and I had no
So
idea
what's
why
going
you
on?
kept asking me. I'm like, what
If
is
you're
wrong
asking
with
any
you?
of us,
Early onset dementia?
You know what? I'm getting naked.
Go for it.
That's
Go
right.
home.
no.
Come on.
Here, start with that.
It smells. Run.
Here, have a shoe. That's right. That's right. It's the best
Stink
part.
bomb.
Well, if you really want the stink bomb, It can get gnarly in here. Okay. My feet are all sweaty.
At least they can only see this.
All right, what are we going to do now? Leave a comment down below about who you think is most unappreciated.
Who is the most unappreciated band?
That was such an old joke. That was from years ago.
What?
Candy with a K.
Candy with a K.
Who said it?
Fernando.
Oh, man, he went back far.
He's candy.
Fernando, have you been watching for that long?
He has to have been. That's crazy.
Nobody here, I guarantee you, knows about Candy with a K or Bambi with a Y.
Candy with a K and Bambi with a Y.
I bet you nobody here knows what we're referring to. We've been doing these videos daily, pretty much,
For years.
for years.
That was so long ago.
Just for you, bud. Just for you.
So, yes, she was Candy with a K. Or were you Bambi with a Y?
I don't remember who was Candy with a K.
I
It
thought
was
it
so
was
long
Bambi
ago.
with a Y.
Bambi with an I.
No, Bambi
No,
with a Y.
Bambi with a
'cause
Y.
It was stupid. Bambi
Yes.
with a Y. We were being stupid.
I miss her very much.
Yes.
She was fun. But we want 2 answers down below. We want one for the 70s and one for the 80s. All right.
Okay, so leave us that comment. And you gotta give us a thumbs up, a big old thumbs up, because when you do good, you get good. And then you have to
Subscribe.
Subscribe.
Get naked.
That bell, ding, ding, ding. We do a video like this a lot, and we'll see you soon. And hopefully you won't be naked.
Come on, Candy with a K.
I'm going home.
Shut up, Bambi with a Y.
I'm not Bambi with a Y. I was the other guy I was always the cameraman. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody for being here.
Yeah, this was fun.
Hope you enjoyed it. You know, it was a lot of participation, which is exactly what we were hoping
Yeah.
for. So next week, I think we're gonna do the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because honestly, we already have every bit of
I'm
information.
prepared.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
were
we're
all
pretty-
prepared
we're
for
pretty
that one.
prepared.
And hopefully Justin will be here and maybe I could sit down, not on the camera, because I think I had a good shot this time.
Yeah.
Right? Pretty
Yeah,
good?
We could probably fit you in.
Yeah.
I'll lick
Yeah.
people if not.
Yeah, no, we back the camera up a little bit. It'd be fine.
That's right. I'll back that thing up. Goodbye.